While Roanoke City Council and the general public debated over and over again about where a possible permanent amphitheater should go, promoter Gary Jackson did something about it. He erected temporary stages on the old Victory Stadium site for 2 concerts in 2010, including the all-day Down by the River event. Jackson bills himself as a promoter, producer, event and site coordinator, a stage manager, a piano tuner, and a lighting engineer, among other things. For the past 2 years, he's worked with Kirk Avenue Music Hall in Roanoke, helping to fill that space with solo artists and bands that often do not stop in Roanoke. Jackson has been a producer, director, or manager at the Lollapalooza Festival, at the famed Cellar Door in Washington, D.C., for artist Mary Chapin Carpenter, and at a host of other festivals and fairs. Gary Jackson has worked to fill venues large and small in the U.S., Europe, and Australia. Now he brings that music booking expertise to Roanoke. Gary Jackson, welcome to the interview.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you when we were talking about it off air, just if you can drop a few names, talk about some of the notable music acts and performers you've worked with over the years. You were saying you booked Brad Paisley, who just sold out the Civic Center here about 15 years ago, and 6 people showed up or something?
6 people showed up, and it was kind of like a little house party. But it just shows how perseverance or whatever pays off, because he's doing wonderfully well now.
Yeah, and you've worked with some other people, big names over the years?
Oh yeah. I started in the late 60s and early 70s in Washington, D.C. at what at the time was the premier showcase club called the Cellar Door at 34th and M Street in Georgetown. And it was owned by Cellar Door Productions, and had the pleasure of working with people like Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell. I mean, they would come through without their big entourages back then and play in a small little showcase, a lot like Kirk Avenue Music Hall is.
You were at 202 Market here for a year, now at Kirk Avenue Music Hall for 2. What attracted you to Roanoke in the first place?
I actually had been running the Birchmere Music Hall in Alexandria for 7 years, doing all the production and a lot of the front of house. And I was kind of burnt out. I looked at my wife and I said, I'd like to do something else. And she was originally from Roanoke, so we moved here with our family.
Okay, so that was the, and I know you've been here for a couple of years, and you're one of the people that books Kirk Avenue Music Hall. I know we had Ed Walker on a recent show, and he said there's been 13 Grammy acts in that little building.
Oh yeah, Kirk Avenue was sort of designed a little bit like Cellar Door, where it's all about that artist on the stage, it's all about the music, there's no distractions.
You're there to watch music,
and it's like being invited into the artist's living room. It's pretty special. Almost 100% of the time the artist comes out after the show and meets people and greets you, and so you get to feel like you know them some.
What do you think about Roanoke so far? I mean, you've worked here for a couple of years now. What do you think, Gary, about Roanoke as a place for music? I mean, will people come out to see an act they don't know a whole lot about?
It's hit and miss for me. There's a lot of great acts I brought to Roanoke that sort of like went right over people's radar. But for the most part, almost all the shows are very well attended, and the quality and caliber of the people playing is just amazing.
Are you a musician yourself, or how did you get into this?
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to pay to hear me play. So.
Okay, so we won't see you on stage at Kirk Avenue.
No, unless I've had a couple drinks.
And I know at some point in the past you even wrote a couple of books for kids.
Right, I actually moved to Roanoke to retire from music, and I just wanted to write. And I was having a lot of fun doing that, minding my own business, and then you kind of meet people, and they go, oh, no, you got to do that for Roanoke, and that's how I got started.
Last year you brought John Hyatt and then Down by the River to the former Victory Stadium space. Just talk about how much work went in behind the scenes to get something like that done.
Well, it's a lot of work, and even though it only happens on a 1 or 2 day period, it takes about a year to book all the talent, to lay out the field, to get all the vendors, the crafters, the artists, the stage, lights. It takes about a year.
And this year, Down by the River is back for 2 days, May 13th and 14th, with camping allowed as well. And this year it's been supersized a couple days. Amos Lee, Courtyard Hounds, which are a couple of the Dixie Chicks, Jay Farrar, some of the headliners. Talk about Down by the River this year.
Well, Down by the River this year is going to be bigger and better. It is in May. I'm going to be doing all I can to make it is weatherproof as possible. The reserve section and the main stage will be under a huge clear span. The Kids World and the Music Lab stage, both of those stages will be under huge tents.
People can pay more if they want to sit under a tent as opposed to sitting outside a tent.
It's a little bit more to sit under the clear span, not a lot.
I wanted to bring up also that down by the river on the former Victory Stadium site, and there was a debate for quite a while about where the amphitheater should go in Roanoke, and ultimately they decided to shelve the project for now. But these productions, if they're successful, do you think it maybe sort of rekindles some of that debate, Gary, about where an amphitheater should go? Or do we need a permanent amphitheater if you can stick a stage up and do a show occasionally?
I don't know if the city needs a permanent amphitheater. I really don't. I know what I do is a seasonal thing. I mean, for 40 years I've been doing big outdoor events in the summer. You set it up, you do it, you tear it down, you clean it up. It seems to work for me. I don't know how to answer whether or not the city needs a permanent amphitheater.
Right. But you were happy with what happened last year with Down by the River and John Hyatt.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good show.
And then Derek and Susan
Tedeschi, right. That was a great show to finish. Derek, of course, plays with Allman Brothers.
Right.
Do you think, have you seen, of course it's only been a couple of years now, but do you think that more and more artists, in part because of your connections, will maybe put Roanoke on their map? Have you seen that already?
I've seen that already, and it's just not what I'm doing. I mean, what Dylan's doing at the Jefferson Center, what they're doing over at the Civic Center, a lot of the clubs in town. This will be our second year we're doing Down by Downtown, where we're going to have 50 artists playing around town over 4 days.
And that's when?
April 13th through the 16th.
Okay.
And it's sort of tailored a little bit like Austin, Texas's South by Southwest. But I've really noticed in the 3 or 4 years since I've gotten back into music here in Roanoke, it's really taken off. You know, a lot of shows are selling out. You know, people, just like the night Brad Paisley played, I had a sold-out show with Project Object at Kirk Avenue, which was Frank Zappa's old original band. I mean, totally different genres of music, but people are getting out and enjoying it.
Yeah, Paisley was sold out too, of course, with Darius Rucker. And just before we go, we've got a minute or so. You've worked all around the world doing concerts, Europe, Australia. Let's talk about that experience.
Oh, so long ago. I just, I will tell you, when I used to do that, I had young children at the time, and I missed them terribly, and I made them a promise. I said, when Dad finishes this one and I get home, I won't go anywhere unless you all go with me. And I came back and started a production company, and pretty much have stayed based here in the United States since then.
Okay.
So in the summertime, we all pack up and go do shows together. So.
Okay. So just to wrap up, you're working on some more interesting stuff for Kirk Avenue and.
I got some great shows coming to Kirk Avenue. One of them is Tom Rush, who's an icon in the folk world, who doesn't tour much anymore, but we're actually going to have him at the Sanctuary on, I think it's March 24th. But he's a biggie. You know, hopefully people will come out and see that.
Okay. So stay tuned.
Yep.
All right. Our guests today have been David Mickenberg from the Taubman Museum of Art and music promoter-producer Gary Jackson. I'm Gene Marrano. You can look for me in the Roanoke Star-Sentinel, Valley Business Front, and in Play by Play magazine. And don't forget, you can watch segments of the interview on YouTube. Just search by my name. Until next time, take care.